Hey there, my name is Tolor, and in this video I want to show you my opening for TvT. Now, I didn't play this opening that much, so it could be possible that it loses to some things, but in general I felt like this was pretty reasonable. The idea is to build standard to Reaper 1 Cyclone opening with relatively late expansion, then go to Ravens and Tanks and take a relatively early third base. Okay, so let's look at the build order. Yeah, again, you're really the first worker at the ramp, and in my opinion it's reasonable to build a wall-in TvT because it can delay an attack of an opponent's cyclones if he goes for early cyclones, and you're not really vulnerable to tank attacks because yeah, those aren't as common and they are really not that good. Yeah, you build a gas first at 15 supply, and as soon as you have the 150 minerals, you put down the barracks, also at the front. And yeah, you rally your workers at the refinery, and then you get a second gas immediately after the barracks, as soon as you have the 75 minerals at 17 supply. Now what you will do is that you build 2 Reapers from your barracks and 1 Cyclone from the factory that gets put down immediately after the barracks. And after that you will build 2 tech labs, 1 for Ravens and 1 for tanks, so that you can defend all incoming attacks. Yeah, as you've seen, after the barracks is finished, there comes first orbital command, then immediately the factory. Also don't forget the second supply depot at 20 supply, because at that moment you're at 20 of 23 supply, and you would get supply stacked if you wouldn't build it. So with the Reaper you can scout the opponent, but you shouldn't lose this Reaper, because it is really important in holding attacks and also in yeah, in probably harassing a little bit the opponent. So yeah, after you build the Cyclone, when you have the 100 gas, you put down the Starport at 27 supply, and after the Starport is put down, you build your third supply depot. And yeah, here we see it. After the barracks is done with the Reapers, you throw down a tech lab, and when the Cyclone is done, you throw down a tech lab at your factory as well. Then when the barracks is finished with the tech lab, then the Starport will probably be finished as well, and you switch your Starport at the tech lab. At that point you also build the natural, and as soon as you have the 100 minerals, you build a Raven. Now the 2 Reapers and the Cyclone, they scout the opponent, what he does, and you don't risk those units, but just yeah, you look what he has, and go back to your base if he has too much. And possibly you can kill a couple of units, but not that many. Yeah, after the first Raven, you build a Viking, because you won't have enough gas to build a second one. And yeah, after the Raven is finished, you take your second factory. This one will be used with the reactor to build Hellions. And yeah, soon after the second factory is started, you can throw down your third base, and when your natural CC is finished, you build a orbital command of it. Now the Raven, you can use it to harass the opponent, which is probably the best thing to do with the first Raven. But I will pause it for a moment. You will need Raven energy to defend incoming attacks. You can, if you didn't lose the repass, you can scout in front of the opponent's natural base when he goes out, and at that moment go in at the back with your Raven to throw down a auto turret. But then you should go back immediately, because your Raven is pretty important in defending an attack. Of course, this only applies if the opponent actually attacks. If he doesn't, then you can use all the energy to get a couple of worker kills. And yeah, the tanks you build are positioned at the front line, because at that moment you won't have anything to drop in your main. And if he does, you have your Raven and your Viking and the Cyclone, that's, yeah, if you didn't lose it, to defend anything that could get in your main base. So you take your tank to defend anything that could attack at the front. Okay, let's resume it with the build order. You take your third and fourth gas soon after you have started your third base, and when the reactor is finished, you put your second factory at it to start building Hellions. Now at this point you have the decision if you make a second Raven or if you make a third tank. You won't have enough gas to build both. So what I like to do is to build a second Raven to harass from both sides with the Ravens, and build a Hellion from the factory with the tech lab to get down your minerals. Yeah, around this moment you want to throw down your engineering bay to have the ability to build turrets. But the exact timing of the engineering bay is dependent on whether you think there will be a drop or banshees or something similar from the opponent. If he doesn't, you can delay the engineering bay a little bit and yeah, spend the minutes on other things. And you have also the decision if you build Hellions or if you build Widow Mines from the factory with the reactor. Hellions have the advantage that they don't cost gas, so you could build your tanks a little bit earlier, and the Ravens. And Widow Mines have the advantage that they provide vision and zone control and are generally stronger for if the opponent actually goes over them. So yeah, at this point the build order is pretty much finished, and now you should decide what to build on, depending on what you scout the opponent does. So yeah, this was pretty much the build order itself, and I will put down the build order in text form again in the description, like I did in the TvT video. In the next video I will show you again the reactions you do with this build to react to things the opponent could do, and how you adapt your build order to different build orders of the opponent. So I hope this was helpful, and until next time.